Okay, Ian, in the last video we looked at the client. In this
Yeah.
video we're going to look at how we manage our computers.
Okay.
As you can see here, if I click on the Manage tab, I've got these three objects: Manage Computers, Organizational Groups and Power Groups. I'm going to go through each one of these in turn. So the first one that you're going to see is Manage Computers, and this contains a list of all the computers that have the client installed and that you are managing as part of your enterprise.
Okay. I mentioned before we've got about 1,100 PCs in our network. That's going to be one long list. Can we sort it somehow?
Yes, I mean, in organizational groups, I'll expand on these, that will actually take in your Active Directory structure, which I'll touch on in a minute, but we do have a way of using the console to filter. So I can just drag and drop, say, the AD folders, and then how I have my machines configured in my Active Directory will appear in this list, so you can sort of group it via department. We also have some other things that we can bring in. If I right click on the grey bar and click on More Fields, I can bring in things from the actual database. So I can bring things in like logged on user, IP address, basic things like chassis type as well. And as you can see, it will bring in things like the user that's logged in. Move that around. So you can bring in some additional information, and then you can sort of group by the field that you want to look at. So that's a way of breaking it down for you.
Okay, pretty useful.
What I'm going to do as well is I'm just going to sort of remove those that I've just added, so just to clean everything up, so it makes it easier for you to sort of see what's going on. Now if I click on organizational units, this is exactly the same way as your Active Directory is configured. So if you've got a machine called VMXP1 in your finance department, it's going to appear in exactly the same way. So if I actually go ahead and delete that, you'll see when the clients communicate with the server again, it will automatically self-populate into the correct grouping. So my finance department and my marketing department both have an exact replica of what you have in your Active Directory.
Sure, and these are machines that obviously just have the client installed. This isn't every machine in my Active Directory?
Yeah, exactly. It's just the machines that you're managing. In my Active Directory, moved VMXP1 into the marketing department. That in turn would be reflected inside our console. So you're not doing two levels of administration. But if I created my own custom group, let's call it custom, and I put a machine in that custom group, it will appear here, but not in your Active Directory. So we're just pulling things from your Active Directory, we're not putting things into it. Okay?
Right, yeah, follow that.
And the last thing we've got here is power groups, and power groups are based on our patented smart update technology. And the best way I can describe them is if you imagine creating a container and giving that container a rule, and then grouping machines in that container based on the rule that you've created. So the two here that you get when you install the software for the first time is desktop computers and laptop computers. So it's grouping all your desktop chassis types together, and if I had laptops on my network, all the laptops would be grouped together. So it's a way of doing something dynamically that's outside of your traditional Active Directory structure.
Right. So I guess if I wanted to view things according to function, I could change the groups within organizational groups, but if I want to apply different rules to different machines or groups of machines, I'd use the power groups?
Yeah, that's exactly it. An example might be, if you're looking to group machines together by a piece of software, because you might have a standard power scheme for all of the computers in your domain, but there might be a certain group of machines that you want to have a different type of power management scheme. I don't know, like
Well, use some real examples. Our place, we have supervisor PCs and we have data entry PCs, and I'd like two sets of settings depending on what the role is.
I mean, one of the things that is quite common that we find that people will do is use like registry keys to look for pieces of software. So if I go into the registry, and if I go into HKey local machine, software, Microsoft, Windows, current version and uninstall, this is where all the applications live that when you go into add remove programs and you see all the list of applications you have installed on that machine, this is where it's getting that information from. So let me use Outlook Express as an example. So So if I right click on that and select copy key name,
Mm-hmm.
and then go to the registry key and just paste that key name in there, I can check for whether it exists or doesn't exist. So if I click on next now and call it Outlook Express, and then click on next, any machines that have the application Outlook Express installed would automatically appear in that group. And as you can see, VMXP1 and VXP2 both have the application installed, so they appear in that group. So I could use that for applying a different power management scheme rather than doing it in my traditional Active Directory way.
Sure. What happens if a machine's in more than one group?
Okay, that's a very good question. And if I click on all schemes, one of the things that you'll notice here, we have this priority number. So number 1 being the highest priority, number 5 being the lowest. As you add more power schemes in, obviously the numbers sort of increase. So let's say I deploy my sample presentation mode to my finance department, and then in my Outlook Express, I deploy maximum energy savings. Maximum energy savings would take precedence because it has the highest priority number.
Right.
So obviously a machine can exist in different locations. It's here in my flat managed computers list. It's also here in my domain structure, and it's also here in the power groups. So we get around that by selecting priority. So what I suggest to people is when you're actually deploying a power scheme, is to actually deploy one standard power scheme to everybody in your environment, and you make sure that that has the lowest priority. So in this case it would be number 5. So if I wanted then to do any custom power schemes, say for a specific department or an individual PC, all I need to do is make sure that the scheme that I'm applying has a higher priority number than the one that I've applied at the domain level.
Right, makes sense.
So you've actually beaten me to it, so I'm going to show you how you deploy some of the power schemes. So I click on all schemes at the bottom here. It's got a list of 5 power management schemes that come as default with the software. Obviously you can create your own, and in the next video we'll touch on that. So all I'm going to do is show you how you deploy your power schemes. So let's say I wanted, in my finance department, I wanted to deploy the sample green campaign. All I need to do is highlight the finance department, click on sample green campaign, and then I can click on the assign button, or I can just double click on the power scheme itself, and it will tell me that I'm about to apply it. And if I click yes, it's now assigned that to all the machines in my finance department. If I add any new machines to my Active Directory and they go into the finance department and they have the new boundary client on and they're being managed by our server, they would automatically receive that sample green campaign. You wouldn't need to reapply it. So any machine that joins the finance department would always get that power management scheme. So if I click on my machine here, click on options, you can see it's set as sample green campaign. Now if I wanted to assign a different power scheme to my marketing department, just double click on it and there it goes, it's assigned the moderate energy savings. And it usually takes between 5 and 10 seconds to apply the power scheme, and as we see there, it's automatically done it. Now I'm logged in as a local administrator and as a domain administrator, so I have all the power that I need to be able to essentially just do whatever I want to my machines. So I'm going to break away from what the corporate standard is and go back to my home office desk, and I'm going to do the same here on my VMXP1 machine. And what the software will do, will recognize that the user has changed it, and because I'm connected to the channel, it will automatically put the settings back to where they were. So it's gone back to moderate energy savings, and the same thing will have happened on my VMware machine as well. So it doesn't matter what I try and change, it will always put it back. Now if my computer, an example being a laptop, if I move that away from my network, so where you're not paying the energy bill, the user can actually change the settings. Obviously if they have admin privileges to do so, they can change the settings to whatever they want, but the moment they come back onto your corporate network, they would automatically have their settings reinforced. So if I wanted to unassign, all I need to do is click on the department again. As you can see, it's showing assigned, And now instead of showing assign, it's now showing unassign. So if I just click on that, and what that will do is it will revert the machine back to whatever its power management policy was before you applied your corporate one. So it's now gone back to what I had it set to, which was home office desk. So that's deploying the schemes and a quick look at the management tab. Do you have any other questions there?
No, I think that just about covers it. Thanks very much.
In the next video then we'll have a look at how to create your own power scheme.